Alright, spicy crazy decks of the week, where we look at the spicy crazy decks that actually had success, whether it was in tournament or on ladder, reaching King of Games, or having a good win streak at the King of Game or Legend level. So the first one we have here, we have a Crystron Water XYZ deck. We're using the Territory of the Shark skill, so anytime we get 2 level 4 or 2 water monsters on the board, we can make them into level 4s and go for the XYZ play. One of the main cards to do that is going to be the Buzzsaw Shark. Buzzsaw Shark, you see this in Water XYZ decks and sometimes in Fish decks. You can bring out a Water level 4 from the deck and go for an XYZ with that play, not even needing the skill, but you can actually bring out the Mermail Abyss monster here, and what that'll let you do is discard a water from your hand to the graveyard and add another one from your deck to hand. So you can put your Crystrons in the grave where you can banish them and get their effects and continue to gain massive card advantage on your opponent. So between the Buzzsaw Shark and the Crystrons, you can put down a good amount of monsters and make a lot of XYZ plays, and the Territory of the Shark helping out with that, going into the familiar monsters like Abyss Dweller, Hope Woven, and all of those good plays that we're all familiar with. We're also running a lot of back row with this deck. As you can see, half the deck, more than half the deck, are trap cards. Some discard traps like Divine Wrath and Ultimate Providence, further allowing you to put those Crystal monsters in the graveyard and continue to banish them. We also have 3 Needle Sealing in the deck as well. Again, Crystons don't mind going into the graveyard because you can get their effects there, so it's just another way to blow out your opponent and take advantage of that. Also running 2 copies of the trap card, really powerful. Can search that out as well. So neat little deck. This one went on a 13 win streak. I've seen a couple other people using it as well, so it's definitely a solid deck and a solid pick, and yeah, interesting to see Crystron having success at this point in time. Alright, next we have a Deskbot deck. Now this was top 8 in the DLE Battle Step tournament. It's a pretty good finish. So we'll quickly go over, because I know a lot of people probably are not familiar with Deskbot. So you can normal summon the number 1 here and get the searcher deck for another Deskbot. Summon a Deskbot from your deck. When you do that, you can special summon them. I'm still getting them confused. It shows you how rare it is to see Deskbots. But you normal summon this one, special summon the one from your deck, and then you get a searcher deck for another Deskbot. All of them have an effect to gain attack points, whether that's by having another Deskbot on the board or by sending one from your deck to the graveyard, but they have ways to boost their attack points to try to jump over, because as is, they only have like 500 attack points, so they do have some little tricks that they can do there, and they can, as I said, swarm the field pretty easily too and gain card advantage really quickly. Another little trick that we're doing with this deck is we have the Neos engine in here, and we're running Reload and 2 Magical Mallet. So this gives us a pretty good chance that we're going to have the Tackle Crusader and the E-Hero Stratos, or E-Hero Neos, both in the deck for us to use the fusion with. You want to send the Crusader away. If you don't know, when this card hits the graveyard, you can turn in opponent's monsters on your a monster on your opponent's side of the board face down. So it's kind of like a Book of Moon, and activates anytime it gets sent to grave. So if you mill it off with a Lightsworn card or send it away with Neos Fusion, you're going to get that effect. So it's a really powerful combo, just one card, flip an opponent's monster face down, get at a nice E-Hero monster that is protected with the fusion that's in the graveyard. So nice little play there. Also running some back row here, we have the Powerful Rebirth to trigger some of those Deskbot effects and continue to gain card advantage. Ballista Squad contribute off these low attack point Despots, as well as the Kanadias to blow up cards on the board, and then Raigeki Break to help destroy whatever we need to. So neat little deck here. Also running the little the rank up package where you go into Giga Brilliant 10 to 5 into the Gaia Dragon. So that XYZ play, we have access to that as well, because we do have a few level 3s in this deck. So but yeah, great job getting the top 8. This is a pretty nice sized tournament, so not a small achievement by any means. Alright, next we have another thing that's quite an achievement, winning a first place anytime tournament with Exodia. Grandpa's Cards puts Exodia's 5 pieces into the deck, so 25 cards, and we're stalling out to get to it with Drowning Mirror Force and Wall Disruption. So Drowning Mirror Force obviously just wipe out your opponent's board. It can just completely blow out certain decks and slow them down and end their push. So Drowning is extremely devastating. Wall of D can also do the same thing if their opponent floods the board. And if you can turn all your opponent's attack points down to nothing or next to nothing, you can then play Wonder Balloons and finish the job. You hit your opponent's attack points down by 2,400, play the Wonder Balloons, discard a card or two, and you can turn everything on their board down to nothing attack, and your opponent might sometimes be stuck there with just a full board of monsters that just have like no attack points and can't do anything. So we have a few different ways to solve that. Also, Jargree helps us draw into it. Book of Moon can help us stall as well. As a bonus, we have Hammond in here. You can send away 3 of these face-up spells to the graveyard, summon a 4,000 attack point monster. So yeah, pretty interesting to see Exodia actually having some success. I know this does not happen that often, so anytime it does, we got to talk about it on this segment that we do here. All right, next up we have another win streak deck. This is a Gusto, very trap heavy version of the deck. So we have the big thing with this deck is basically just everything brings out something else, right? Pretty much. Like when the Windas died, you can bring out another copy of Ritual Beast Winda, or you can bring out the Ritual Beast monster in the deck. But we have all these Gustos. So when the Eggle and the Winda die by battle, they both can bring out another Gusto from the deck. And when the Guldos is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon another Gusto from the deck. So it's basically just like an endless stream of monsters with these three Gustos, just bringing out a version of each other. You run 3 copies of all of them, plus 3 copies of the Ritual Beast Winda, and you basically just got 12 monsters whenever they get destroyed or sent to the graveyard, depending on how they die. We just bring out more from your deck, and it's just an endless stream of monsters that's backed up by an insane amount of trap cards. Wall of D, Floodgate, Fiendishes, you see the Needle Ceilings in here again. Treacherous Trap Hole, we're running Endless Trap Hell, so we can shuffle our traps back in and make these live. Just absolutely insane. We also have a couple cool little plays here with the Pilica, can be a 1-card synchro play. Also, Cam can shuffle stuff back into the deck, let you draw cards, and keep the Gusto chain going. So yeah, this deck can be really annoying. Usually I wouldn't don't like featuring these kind of really trap heavy, like crazy decks, but I love Gusto, I love Pilica, and this is really cool to see this. So yeah, absolutely happy to see this deck have success, even though I can see how this deck can be really annoying to play against. Alright, now this hit King of Games. This is a Rescue Rabbit deck that's using Noble Knights, E-Heroes, and a whole bunch of stuff. We're also using a little Reptile engine here too. So there's a few cool tricks we got to talk about here. So first things first, Rescue Rabbit obviously can bring out the Noble Knights, which just gives you a whole variety of things to go into. You can go into the Noble Knight XYZs, you can go into the Warriors like Excalibur, you have all the good generic rank 4s like Malevolent Sin and Roach, so there's just a lot of options, but a really nice play. You can go into the King of Feral Imps. So Feral Imp says when you have no other reptiles, you can detach, add a reptile from your deck to hands, which includes the Reptilian Lamia. So you can summon Reptile Imps, add the Lamia from deck to hand. You can then special summon the Lamia to the board. If your opponent has a monster on their side of the field, that is, you can turn that monster's attack points down to 0. You'll take the damage of that attack points, but that's going to let you trigger your Wounded Hero skill, and then Wounded Hero will let you summon Bubble Man from the deck. Then you can synchro summon the Lamia and Bubble Man into 6, bring out Brionac, discard whatever's left in your hand to clear the board. They'll have a 0-point attack point monster on the board for you to swing over, and then Brionac and Feral Imps is more than 4,000 for game. So it's a really, really cool little play with the rabbit to go into that. So there's a number of really cool things you can do with this deck. And of course you have Noble Knight's Brothers here, so you can actually shuffle the normal monsters back into your deck and reuse it if you draw your other Rescue Rabbit. Battling Boxer Veil will let you trigger the Wounded Hero effect as well, kind of like D-Draw. Your life points go down, so it still triggers it even when you bring it back up with the Veil, so that can help you stall, as well as put extra level 4s on the board for you to XYZ with. So Veil is really good in this deck. Also running Consecrating Current can definitely help you OTK. There's a few different things here that will help give you attack points, more than 4k to swing over and just finish off your opponent. MST Book of Moon, pretty standard. So yeah, cool little deck here, some really neat ideas. I actually really like this. I'm gonna have to try this deck out myself here on ladder at some point, because this is a really cool concept, and I'm just gonna have to give it a shot. And hey, Red Eyes had success. I know a lot of people love Red Eyes decks. Been a budget deck for a while, but it's not one that always has a lot of tournament success. But this one got top 4 in the DLE Meta Freakly tournament. So a few things going here. First off, we have the Gaia, the Gearfried monster, the Red Knight monster that lets you special summon Red Eyes from your graveyard. You can also pop back row with it. So between the 3 MSTs, the Forbidden Lance, and the 3 Red Eyes monster that can pop your opponent's back row, we got like 7 ways to deal with opponent's back row. So we got a lot of ways to take care of trap cards and anything that's going to hamper us in that kind of way. Also, several ways to search out the Red Eyes Fusion, so we can bring out the Slash Dragon. And Slash Dragon acts as sort of a Lunalight Saber Dancer for this deck, right? Like some decks just every single piece of removal that they have relies on targeting, and this deck just says, oh, you're going to target, I'm just going to negate all those. And some decks just do not have a way to get around it. Some decks are just going to straight up lose to the fact that they just don't have anything to destroy it besides targeting removal, and they don't have enough of it. So Slash Dragon can just straight up win you games because of that. And again, we also have a few other plays in here with the new Chain card that we finally got, the new Red Eye support card that came out in the selection box, a couple of copies of those. So we got a few little cool things in this deck. I really like the fact that Red Eyes is having a little bit of success here. I know a lot of people love this deck, and it just doesn't feel like it gets the love that Dark Magician and Blue Eyes do. So it's just really nice to see, Red Eyes having success here, and pulling some little tricks out of the bag and having some tournament success. That's always good to see. Speaking of tournament success, I really need to mention this deck this week. If you guys haven't been paying attention, this deck is becoming a real competitive force. Dino Tech Genius is a real thing. We got top 16 here in the DLE meta frequently with this. It has several other tournament success this week as well. A bunch of people playing King of Games with this deck. It's something you got to watch out for. So the main part of this deck is not any different than what the Dino TG deck was doing beforehand, or even from like the normal TG in a sense. We are trying to get out we use in set Delta XL. We're going to try to end the board on that 4,000 attack point level 12 synchro monster. And the big thing is you just got to get a level 1 little dino monster out alongside the level 4 tuner next to it, whether that's a Raiden or Sea Serpent. You got to get the Serpent in the graveyard as well in this process, but you bring out the level 5, you synchro summon, bring out another level 5, then you can activate the skill, bring out the level 2. You guys know that same combo. Nothing's changed with that, right? So everything is still the same there. You can send the miscellaneous source from the graveyard, banish, bring out the Raptor. Nothing's changed with that. But what's changed now is we have all these trap cards to go along with this strategy. So the survivals end when you send it to the graveyard, mill it to the graveyard. You can banish it from your grave, destroy a dinosaur on your side of the board, as well as a card on your opponent's side of the board. It can be a spell, trap, or monster card, so a ton of versatility with that. Also, if you have a normal monster on your side of the field, when it's set, you can activate it to destroy that normal monster, summon a dino from your deck, and then banish the Survival's End from your graveyard to pop that dino, and then pop a card on your opponent's side of the board. So Survival's End lets you do a whole bunch of different things with it. It's really cool. Also really effective if you happen to run into Blue Eyes or Dark Magician or something with a normal monster. You can actually just destroy their monsters and summon something from your deck. So Survival's End can absolutely devastate like Blue Eyes decks and things like that. And of course the Paleozoics count as normal monsters, so we can bring these back from the graveyard, have them treated as normal monsters, and then summon a dinosaur from the deck to go into our combos and all that stuff with it. So really cool that we can do that with the Paleozoics. Also, Breakthrough Skill, the new trap card is in this deck. We can of course mill to the graveyard and get an effect off as well. So there's just a ton of things in this deck that like to be milled, and of course pretty much all your monsters you don't mind milling them to the graveyard either. So yeah, just a ton of really cool plays with this deck. Like I said, it's doing really well in tournaments. So if you play in tournaments, if you play at high levels of ladder play and you're not aware of this deck, you should definitely become aware of it and what it does, because this deck is becoming a real threat in the metagame, and it's something you should be aware of. So anyways, thank you guys all for watching. I appreciate it. We're going to have some deck profiles over the next few days, and then another one of these on Sunday at the end of the week. And we're going to start doing these on Sundays now on a weekly basis. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day.